The security guards thought they were dealing with an ordinary trespasser, but there was something familiar about the black woman they were forcing out of the building. She kept insisting she belonged there, mentioning names and details that only an insider would know. When she finally made one phone call, everything changed. Because standing in that lobby wasn't just any visitor, she was the identical twin of the woman who owned the building they were throwing her out of. The Johnson & Associates corporate headquarters rose 32 floors above downtown Chicago, its glass and steel facade reflecting the morning sun like a beacon of success. The building housed one of the most successful architectural firms in the Midwest, founded by twin sisters who had built their empire from nothing more than shared dreams and identical determination. On the 28th floor, Denise Johnson sat in her corner office, reviewing blueprints for a multi-million-dollar hotel complex. At 34, she was the face of the company, the twin who handled client meetings, press interviews, and board presentation. Her natural charisma and polished presentation style had helped Johnson & Associates secure contracts that their competitors could only dream of. 28 floors below, her identical twin sister Diana was about to walk into the lobby, completely unaware that she was about to become the center of a corporate crisis that would make national news. Diana Johnson had always preferred working behind the scenes. While Denise charmed clients and closed deals, Diana was the technical genius who turned those deals into architectural masterpieces. She spent most of her time at construction sites, reviewing structural plans and consulting with engineers. Her hands-on approach meant she rarely visited the corporate headquarters, preferring the reality of steel and concrete to the abstractions of boardroom politics. But today was different. Diana needed to review the final specifications for the hotel project, and the only complete set of structural drawings was in Denise's office. She had called ahead, but Denise was in back-to-back meetings, so Diana decided to wait in the lobby until her sister was free. The moment Diana walked through the revolving glass doors, she could feel eyes on her. The lobby was a testament to their success. Marble floors, soaring ceilings, and a reception desk that looked like it belonged in a five-star hotel. But the atmosphere felt different from what Diana remembered. There was a tension in the air, a sense of suspicion that hadn't existed when they first moved into this building 5 years ago. Marcus Thompson, the head of security, noticed her immediately. At 42, Marcus had been working private security for over 15 years, and he prided himself on his ability to spot trouble before it started. Something about this woman bothered him, though he couldn't quite put his finger on what it was. She looked familiar, but not in a good way. She was dressed professionally, navy blue business suit, designer handbag, confident posture, but there was something about her that didn't fit. She wasn't on his visitor list. She hadn't checked in at the reception desk, and yet she was walking through the lobby like she owned the place. "Excuse me, miss," Marcus called out, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed. "Can I help you with something?" Diana turned, slightly surprised by the confrontational tone. "Yes, I'm here to see Denise Johnson. I'm Diana Johnson." Marcus's eyes narrowed. This was exactly the kind of thing he had been trained to watch for. Someone claiming to be related to the company's executives, probably hoping to gain access to secure areas or sensitive information. He had seen it before, people trying to exploit personal connections or family names to get past security. "Do you have an appointment?" Marcus asked, already knowing the answer. "No, but then I'm going to have to ask you to leave," Marcus interrupted. "Johnson is a very busy woman, and she doesn't see people without appointments." Diana felt a flicker of irritation. She had helped design the security protocols for this building, and she understood the need for caution. But this was ridiculous. "I think there's been a misunderstanding. I'm not a visitor. I'm Diana Johnson, Denise's sister. I co-own this company." Marcus almost laughed. This was either the most audacious scam attempt he had ever encountered, or he was dealing with someone who was genuinely delusional. "Ma'am, I know who owns this company, and you're not her." "Actually, I am," Diana said, her patience beginning to wear thin. "Denise Johnson and Diana Johnson are both listed as co-owners of Johnson & Associates. We're identical twins, That was when Marcus made his first critical mistake. Instead of taking a moment to consider the possibility that this woman might be telling the truth, he let his assumptions guide his response. In his experience, people who claimed to be related to wealthy executives were usually lying, and this woman's story seemed particularly far-fetched. "Look, lady, I don't know what kind of game you're trying to play, but it's not going to work," Marcus said, his voice taking on a harder edge. "Ms. Johnson doesn't have a twin sister. She's mentioned her family before, and she's never said anything about a twin." Diana stared at him in disbelief. How could the head of security for her own company not know that Denise had a twin sister? Then she remembered that Denise handled all the personnel decisions, and Diana rarely interacted with the corporate staff. It was entirely possible that Marcus had never seen or heard of her. "Call her office," Diana suggested. "Tell her Diana is in the lobby. She'll clear this up immediately." Marcus shook his head. "I'm not bothering Ms. Johnson with this nonsense. You need to leave now, or I'll have you removed." Two other security guards had noticed the commotion and moved closer, ready to assist if needed. Diana found herself facing three men who were convinced she was some kind of fraud or intruder. The irony was almost overwhelming. She was being thrown out of a building she had helped design by a security system she had helped create. "This is absurd," Diana said, pulling out her phone. "I'm going to call Denise myself." "Put the phone away," Marcus ordered. "You're not making any call. You're leaving." But Diana was already dialing. The phone rang once, twice, then her sister's familiar voice answered. "Johnson and Associates. Denise Johnson speaking." "Denise, it's Diana. I'm in the lobby and your security team thinks I'm some kind of imposter." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "What do you mean?" "They're trying to throw me out of the building. The head of security says you don't have a twin sister." Marcus was close enough to hear both sides of the conversation, but he remained skeptical. Phone calls could be faked, voices could be mimicked, and he had seen enough con artists to know that they could be very creative. "Diana, stay right there," Denise said, and Marcus could hear the sharp edge of authority in her voice, even through the phone. "I'm coming down." "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to end that call," Marcus said, reaching for Diana's phone. Diana stepped back, keeping the phone pressed to her ear. "Don't you dare touch me." The situation was escalating quickly. What had started as a simple security check was turning into a confrontation that was drawing attention from everyone in the lobby. Other visitors and employees were stopping to watch, creating an audience for what Diana realized was about to become a very public humiliation. Marcus made his second critical mistake. Instead of waiting for clarification or giving Diana the benefit of the doubt, he decided to assert his authority through force. He nodded to his two colleagues, and they moved to flank Diana. "Ma'am, you're coming with us," Marcus announced. "We're escorting you out of the building." "This is unbelievable," Diana said, but she didn't resist as the guards positioned themselves on either side of her. She had spent enough time on construction sites to know that fighting security guards would only make the situation worse. Instead, she kept her phone pressed to her ear, knowing that Denise was hearing every word. The walk to the exit felt like the longest 100 yards of Diana's life. Every step was a reminder that she was being humiliated in her own building, by her own employees, in front of her own staff. The lobby had gone quiet except for the sound of their footsteps on the marble floor, and the whispered conversations of people trying to figure out what was happening. As they reached the revolving doors, Diana could hear the elevator chime behind them. She turned to see her identical twin sister striding across the lobby, her face a mask of controlled fury. Denise Johnson looked exactly like Diana. Same height, same build, same facial features, same deep brown eyes that were now blazing with anger. The only difference was their clothing. Denise wore a charcoal gray suit that somehow managed to look both professional and intimidating. The lobby fell completely silent as everyone processed what they were seeing. Two identical women, one being escorted out by security, the other clearly in a position of authority. The resemblance was so perfect that it was immediately obvious they were twins. Marcus felt his stomach drop as the implications hit him. He had just spent the last 10 minutes humiliating one of his bosses, calling her a liar and a fraud, and forcing her out of her own building. The woman he had dismissed as an imposter was standing next to her identical twin sister, and there was no mistaking the family resemblance. "Marcus," Denise said, her voice carrying across the lobby with the kind of quiet authority that made everyone stop what they were doing. "Would you care to explain why you're removing my sister from our building?" The security guard's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. He looked from Diana to Denise and back again, as if he couldn't quite believe what he was seeing. I didn't know," Marcus stammered. "She said she was your sister. But I thought, I mean, I never mentioned that I have a twin sister," Denise asked, her tone suggesting that this was perhaps the most ridiculous thing she had ever heard. "Did it occur to you to verify her identity before assuming she was lying?" Diana stepped forward, finally free from the guards who had released her the moment then saw Denise. "I tried to tell him," she said, her voice carrying a mixture of anger and hurt. "I explained who I was. I offered to call you. I even mentioned details about the company that only an insider would know, but he had already decided I was some kind of con artist." The lobby had filled with employees who had heard the commotion and come down to see what was happening. Many of them recognized Denise immediately, but seeing two of her was creating a sense of surreal confusion. Phones came out as people began recording what was clearly going to be a memorable corporate moment. But the real shock was still coming, because Marcus Thompson wasn't just any security guard, and this wasn't just any mistake. Marcus had been personally hired by Denise 6 months earlier, specifically because of his reputation for attention to detail and his ability to maintain discretion. His failure to recognize Diana wasn't just a security lapse, it was a betrayal of the trust that Denise had placed in him. Denise walked over to her sister, her anger tempered by concern. "Are you okay?" Diana nodded, though she was clearly shaken by the experience. "I'm fine, but this is exactly why I don't come to the corporate office very often." "That's about to change," Denise said firmly. She turned back to Marcus, who was still standing frozen in the middle of the lobby. "Marcus, you're fired." The words cut through the lobby like a blade. Marcus had been expecting consequences, but he hadn't expected them to be so immediate or so final. "Ms. Johnson, I can explain." "No," Denise interrupted. "There's nothing to explain. You refused to listen when my sister identified herself. You refused to verify her claims. You physically removed her from the building despite her protests. Most importantly, you made assumptions based on your own prejudices rather than following proper protocol." She paused, letting the weight of her words settle over the crowd. "Diana Johnson is not just my sister. She's the co-founder of this company, the lead architect on most of our major projects, and one of the most respected structural engineers in Chicago. The building you just threw her out of exists because she designed it." Marcus felt the ground shifting beneath his feet. Not only had he humiliated his boss, but he had humiliated someone who was arguably more important to the company than anyone except Denise herself. The structural integrity of every Johnson & Associates project depended on Diana's expertise. "I'm sorry," Marcus said, but the words sounded hollow even to him. "I made a mistake." "You made several mistakes," Denise corrected, "but the biggest one was assuming that someone who looked like me, sounded like me, and knew details about our business couldn't possibly be related to me. That assumption says more about your prejudices than it does about my sister's credibility." The crowd in the lobby was growing larger as word spread throughout the building. This wasn't just a security incident, it was a teaching moment about respect, assumptions, and the importance of treating everyone with dignity regardless of how well you think you know them. Diana stepped forward, her composure returning as she realized this could be an opportunity to address some larger issues. "This isn't just about me," she said, her voice carrying clearly across the lobby. "How many other people have been treated this way? How many visitors, clients, or potential employees have been made to feel unwelcome because they didn't fit someone's expectations?" The question hung in the air like an indictment. Diana was right, and everyone in the lobby knew it. The Johnson & Associates building had a reputation for being exclusive and intimidating, and that reputation started with the people who controlled access to it. Denise nodded approvingly at her sister's observation. "Diana raises an excellent point. Marcus, in the 6 months you've worked here, How many people have you turned away without properly verifying their business? Marcus couldn't answer because he knew the truth would only make things worse. He had turned away dozens of people, often based on nothing more than their appearance or his gut feeling about whether they belonged in the building. I want a complete review of our security protocols, Denise announced to the crowd. Every interaction, every denial of access, every assumption made by our security team. If we find patterns of discrimination or bias, there will be consequences. She turned back to Marcus. Clean out your desk. Security will escort you out of the building. The irony was not lost on anyone present. Marcus, who had just escorted Diana out of the building, was now being escorted out himself. But unlike Diana's forced exit, Marcus's departure was justified and deserved. As Marcus walked toward the elevators with his cardboard box of personal belongings, Diana felt a mixture of satisfaction and sadness. She had been vindicated, but the incident had revealed problems that went far deeper than one security guard's poor judgment. "This can't happen again," Diana said to her sister as they watched Marcus disappear into the elevator. "It won't," Denise promised. "We're going to make sure of it." The story of the identical twins and the security guard who couldn't tell the difference between an owner and an intruder spread quickly through Chicago's business community. Within hours, it was being discussed on social media, in corporate boardrooms, and at dinner tables across the city. The video footage from the lobby's security cameras became viral content within the image of Diana being escorted out while calmly explaining her identity, followed by the moment Denise appeared and the guards' faces went white with shock, was viewed over 2 million times in the first week alone. Major news outlets picked up the story. CNN ran a segment titled "When Security Goes Wrong," featuring interviews with workplace discrimination experts. The Chicago Tribune wrote an editorial about implicit bias in corporate America, using Diana's experience as a prime example of how prejudice can manifest even in professional settings. The incident sparked a broader conversation about how Black professionals are perceived and treated in corporate environments. Harvard Business School professor Angela Williams noted in her analysis, "The Johnson twins incident perfectly illustrates how even successful Black women can be viewed as outsiders in spaces they literally own." Diana's expertise and ownership stake meant nothing once assumptions took over. Social media exploded with similar stories. The hashtag #TwinMistake began trending as thousands of people shared their own experiences of being dismissed, questioned, or removed from places where they belong. Many were Black professionals who had faced similar treatment in their own workplaces. Diana herself became an unexpected voice in the conversation. In an interview with Good Morning America, she reflected, "What bothered me most wasn't being escorted out. It is the assumption that I couldn't possibly belong there. Marcus saw a Black woman and immediately concluded I was a threat or a fraud. That mindset affects how we're treated in boardrooms, in stores, in every space we enter." The incident had immediate consequences for Johnson & Associates beyond Marcus's termination. 3 other security guards were suspended pending investigation after employees came forward with complaints about their treatment of visitors. The company hired Dr. Rebecca Chen, a renowned expert in workplace equity, to conduct a comprehensive review of their policies and culture. Chen's findings were eye-opening. Her 6-month investigation revealed that the lobby incident was part of a broader pattern. Over the previous year, security had turned away or delayed 73% more Black visitors than white visitors, often requiring additional verification or questioning their business. Many potential clients had been made to feel unwelcome before even meeting with company representatives. The financial impact was significant. Johnson & Associates discovered they had lost at least 12 major contracts due to clients' negative first impressions in the lobby. One potential client, Atlanta-based developer Marcus Washington, later revealed, "I was treated so poorly by their security team that I questioned whether this was the kind of company I wanted to work with." Respect starts at the front door. Denise made the unprecedented decision to publicly release Dr. Chen's full report, despite its damaging findings. "Transparency is the first step toward accountability," she explained at a press conference. "We can't fix problems we're not willing to acknowledge." The Johnson twins used the crisis as an opportunity for transformation. They established the Johnson Excellence Initiative, a comprehensive program that included bias training for all employees, revised security protocols, and a commitment to hiring diverse staff at every level of the organization. Diana took on a more visible role in the company, splitting her time between construction sites and the corporate office. Her presence in the lobby became regular, and she made it a point to greet visitors personally, ensuring they felt welcomed from the moment they entered. The new security team, led by former police diversity officer Captain Sarah Martinez, implemented revolutionary changes. Instead of assuming everyone was a potential threat, they operated from a foundation of respect and verification. The lobby atmosphere transformed from intimidating to inviting. Marcus Thompson's story took a different trajectory. The viral video made him unemployable in corporate security, but it also forced him to confront his own biases. He enrolled in community college courses on diversity and inclusion, eventually becoming a trainer who helped other security professionals recognize and address their prejudices. In a surprising turn of events, Diana agreed to meet with Marcus 18 months after the incident. Their conversation, mediated by Dr. Chen, became the foundation for a training program that Marcus now delivers to security teams across the country. Diana Johnson taught me that my assumptions could destroy someone's dignity, Marcus said in one of his training sessions. She also taught me that recognition and redemption are possible when you're willing to do the hard work of changing your mindset. The Johnson & Associates building became a case study in corporate transformation. Business schools sent students to tour the facility and study how the company had turned a discrimination incident into a catalyst for systemic change. The lobby that had once symbolized exclusion now featured a permanent art installation celebrating diversity and inclusion. The centerpiece was a sculpture of two figures, one welcoming, one being welcomed, with an inscription reading, "Everyone belongs somewhere. Make sure this is that place." 3 years after the incident, Johnson & Associates had not only recovered from the crisis, but had grown stronger. Their commitment to inclusion attracted top talent from diverse backgrounds, leading to more innovative designs and expanded market reach. The company's reputation for treating everyone with respect became a competitive advantage. Diana and Denise were invited to speak at conferences, corporate events, and university graduations about leadership, sisterhood, and the power of turning adversity into progress. Their story became a testament to the idea that identical twins don't just share appearance, they share values, determination, and the ability to create change. The security cameras that had captured Diana's humiliation now recorded daily scenes of welcome and respect. The revolving doors that had symbolized exclusion now welcomed thousands of visitors who were greeted with dignity regardless of their appearance or perceived status. For Diana and Denise Johnson, the incident became a defining moment that revealed their true character. They proved that success isn't just measured by the buildings you design or the profits you generate, but by how you treat people when you have the power to make a difference. The identical twins who had been separated by assumptions were brought closer together by their commitment to ensuring that no one else would experience what Diana had endured in her own building.